Hello, everybody. So today we're talking about Xochimilco. Specifically, everyone that knows Xochimilco knows the little boats and how it's a great, wonderful tourist attraction. And a lot of YouTubers, tour guides, everything, they basically take you there. It's such a memorable and beautiful activity. I am guilty of also going, but there's more to it than just pretty boats that people like have picnics on. Before anything, we're gonna have a little quiz. What do you think Xochimilco is? Do you know what the little boats are actually called? Do you know what the lake is called that the Xochimilco is? Do you know why we still use the lake today? What animals are in the lake or that live around the lake? Why did our people, the Mexicas, Aztecs, even though they have a specific name because there are different tribes, but we'll get into that later. Why did the people decide to stay by the lake? I want you to think about this because it's showing how little we actually know Mexico. The whole point of these workshops is to teach people that there is more to Mexico than these tourist attractions that are gentrifying the community, that are all owned by rich billionaires, and putting people of color, specifically the indigenous communities, to work. Again, people think Xochimilco is that, those pretty boats where people sit on this table that's in there in the picture and with these chairs and hear people on other boats sing, sell things like artesania, flowers, all sorts of things. It's like a picnic type of boat, but that's not what it is. There's more to it than that. So, Xochimilco is actually a neighborhood, a vecindad in Mexico City. It's actually goes back to pre-Hispanic times, before los conquistadores, before the Spaniards, and it was actually one of the Nahuas tribes' home. The trajineras are what the little boats are, and they are commercial use, but it's for tourist attractions because the actual Xochimilca tribe, the people who live there, the indigenous people, work the boats to make a living because unfortunately, with the colonization and everything, there was no way for them to make a living. There are also things called chinampas, which again dates pre-Hispanic times. Things called ajolotes, which is that cute little animal on the corner. There's a museum, Museo de Dolores Olmedo. Teoaca volcano, which is on the border of Mexico City and another state, but I can't remember. Because Mexico City, even though it's called Mexico City, it's actually a state. So it's la Ciudad de México, el Estado de México. El Parque Ecológico de México, which is where the ajolotes are. And there's an actual ajolote farm, una granja de ajolotes, to ensure that there will be enough of them because there's actually in danger right now. And the lake itself, the big parts are called Lake Texcoco, and then there's different sections of it that have different names, but everyone knows it as Lake Texcoco. But by where Xochimilco is, where the touristy part is, that's Lago Xochimilco. It's Lake Xochimilco. Again, before anything, do you know some of the neighborhoods in Mexico City? I want you to name some of them, to think of some of them. We all know where Frida Kahlo is. We don't name the neighborhood in which that is, which is Coyoacán, Ecatepec, Cuautitlán, Tepoztlán, Xochimilco, Tenochtitlan, el Zócalo, pero fue ahí el centro, el Templo Mayor. All these neighborhoods are actually names of pre-Hispanic time. They're actually different indigenous languages because they're all varieties of Nahua and more languages than Nahua in central Mexico. And I need you to really appreciate and understand that because thankfully, because of our ancestors have made sure that those names are not taken away from us. Again, how I said earlier, all those different neighborhoods that I said are actually back to pre-Hispanic times. And so as you can see this map, it has all the different tribes that lived in those areas, and those areas are still named after the people. Not all of them, right? Because of displacement of the indigenous tribes, some of them may not live exactly there, but there is history of them. So like Texcoco, Tlanepantla is a very well-known area. Tepoztlan, Coyotepec, Cuautitlán, Xoloc, Huitzilan, Xochimilco, which is at the bottom with Lake Xochimilco, So origins of Xochimilco, it's actually Xochimilca, the tribe, which is the people who work there. I'm not sure if everyone there is Xochimilca, but there is the indigenous people that work there that make the tourist attraction available for tourists. So around 900 CE, the Xochimilca people, considered one of the earliest of the 7 Nahua-speaking tribes, migrated to the valley of Anahuac, which is now the Valley of Mexico, settled on the south shore of the lake that would become to bear its name. So beautiful history. We have great roots in it, and it's just amazing. So some of you may ask and wonder, like, oh, how did the people, like, where did these people even come from? Like, why did they migrate south? So actually, it's in my last video of Aztec mythology of Huitzilopochtli, or the way the English pronounce it, because it's a very, indigenous word of Nahuas and everything. Huitzilopochtli, it's Hui. You can click on my channel, follow, like, subscribe, everything. Please comment. I want this history to be known, and I want more people to get the word out, but that depends on you guys. But either way, this resource, Chico Mostoc, is the birthplace of the Aztecs. It's where Aztlan, it's in Aztlan. It's supposedly a cave where it has 7 different tribes of Mexico, but it's even other tribes like the Comanche and all of them in the north, in the south part of the US and everything. They actually still have origins from us too. So the most popular theory is that the 7 tribes are the Nahua-speaking cultures that settled in central Mexico. These are Xochimilca, which is where we get Xochimilco, Acalua, Tlahuica, Tlaxcalan, Tepaneca, Chalca, and Mexica. Mexica is what people call the Aztecs. They're not actually called Aztecs. And then even then, these tribes now today don't call themselves that, because they have literally tribes within themselves, because they take up different regions, focus on different things. But that's just a little history for you. Some of you may wonder what actually inspired these trajineras. Like I said, it was the tourist people just coming in, and because of gentrification, colonization, conquistadores, displacing and forcing this idea of money onto the people, the indigenous communities had decided to make these pretty colorful boats for people to do as tourists, like a touristing activity to do. But actually, before this, there was an activity as well. And I hope you guys know what I'm talking about as I go to the next one. So actually, the lake, I know right now in the tourist part is for the trajineras, the little colorful boats, but is actually for chinampas. Chinampas are small, stationary, artificial islands built on freshwater lake, because Lake Texcoco is a freshwater lake, and it's used for agricultural purposes. So basically to feed the whole village, or at least like the empire from the Mexica Empire. So both human waste and organic lake bottom soil were used as fertilizer for the chinampa farms. And the things that are native or, originate in Mexico are maíz, tomatoes, squash, or lo que lo dicen los que hablan español son calabazas, beans, amaranth, chili peppers, and avocado. And so, as you can see on this image, we actually still use these things today. So, like I said, the chinampas were feeding a community. So the people arrived to the lake of what is now Mexico City and got to work. They made these Aztec water gardens, but they're not gardens because gardens don't feed people, but they are actually agricultural water farms to have proper agriculture and, have no waste, because that's how all indigenous communities are. They have produced no waste. Everything is useful to feed the whole community. These little squares, as you can see, are called chinampas. They are man-made and have an awechot tree on each corner to root down the chinampas so that they don't float away, or that the soil doesn't go down into the lake and mess up their work. This chinampa model that I'm showing you in this picture is actually from el Museo Nacional de Antropología con árboles de awechot. This image is a chinampas model from the National Museum of Anthropology in Mexico City, which is actually in Chapultepec. It's actually on the north side of Xochimilco, but either way, it's a really good model of how the people were. And you can see, they have a little boat, and how there's a guy with a little stick, and there's more people in the back also working, and their little versions of the trees to show what this is about. like I said, this is the ancient tree, and we actually still have a lot of these trees all over the city, but um, it's not really used anymore for the farming purposes besides Lex Texcoco because Mexico City is now filled with concrete and destroyed by colonization by los conquistadores. But it's still really, really important because it did help intact the soil. And I believe this tree isn't endangered. I could be wrong, but it does have history to it as it relates to Montezuma, and there's going to be another video on it later. Surprisingly enough, we still use these chanapas today to feed the people. This is actually a really, really recent picture. I believe this one was found on Google, but I actually have a similar picture. I just couldn't find it in time of a man collecting the different like agricultural things in the chinapas. And you can see the way it is, even though this is a very, very modern picture, you can see it's just a humble man just trying to make a living because actually those men are the ones that sell things in Xochimilco all over the city at tianguis to feed the community. A tianguis, by the way, is like a bazaar or a pop-up or a flea market for those who don't know that culture. And there's going to be another video on that topic as well, because tianguis actually comes from the Nahua word. And we actually had tianguis or Mesoamerican pop-ups, pre-Hispanic pop-ups, whatever you want to call them. Well, not whatever you want to call them. For those who don't understand, in pre-Hispanic times. So the indigenous communities of ourselves have also done it as well. So as I said earlier, there's this man with the stick, and actually you saw it on the last picture as well, that the man was still using some type of stick. It's called a huichtli. What is a huichtli? It's an indigenous digging stick with a flat blade, and it helps actually move the person like from one spot to the next. They weren't necessarily like pushing the water. They were actually going all the way down and like, I guess, messing with the fertilizer on their way to get to their destination. And some of us still use it today. As you saw in the last picture, they were using it. It was not a big rowboat because if he was rowing, that would be a different, like rowing paddles to be used. So this is a description of Las Chinampas. I know it's a blurry picture, but it's another diagram for people to use to hopefully be useful because it is a canal that people like were actually like not driving, right? But they were like swimming along and doing, and el agua del lodo, the mud at the bottom of the fertilizer, the different trees, the cultivated agricultural vegetables, fruits and vegetables, and the ahuejotos, and just everything about it. It's really, really beautiful, incredibly intelligent, which is one of the reasons why the conquistadores had named the Mexica people of the Mexica Empire, and even the other tribes that were among the Mexicas, like the Otomis, Xochimilcas, and everything like that, as really, really intelligent people. They were so far advanced, and they were just very, very resourceful. I know it's a trend right now to be like all cutesy with this little animal, but I don't even know if you guys know what it is. I know in English they call it an axolotl. That is not what it's called. It's un ajolote. Ajolotes regenerate themselves. So, for example, like if they miss an arm or a little antenna thingy falls off or something, they actually grow another one, and then that little arm, I believe it also grows into another ajolote. These were used as sources of food for the indigenous tribes before colonization. They live in that lake in Lake Texcoco and the smaller lakes, like the different parts of it. They are in fresh water, actually, and it comes from the Nahua word of atla, which is water, xolot, which is monster, which is an aquatic monster. This is the aquatic equivalent of the god Xolot, which is where the name came from. There's actually Aztec mythology about it, and I'm hoping to describe it in more workshops further down the line, or if not, at least on YouTube, because of the way the schedule is for the workshops. But this being is a being that defies death, because how can it just regenerate so easily? The indigenous tribes were just so fascinated by it, admired it, and it was just absolutely like beyond, like it was just so much more valued in the community than it is today. I know I showed you a picture of them being pink, but they actually come in a lot of different colors. And I know that the picture over here where it says ajolotes of the world, they're like a like a cartoonish version, but there actually are all sorts of colors of them, and even like stained, like the firefly ajolote. And there's actually different shades of pink that they come in as well. So for those of you who want to do the activity, I know that this workshop that you're seeing right now isn't in person because I did them in person sometime this year, whenever you're watching this. But I made my volunteers, the people who attended the workshops, to create a boat and then to try to make a trajinera, the little colorful boats. So las trajineras, right? It's just the boat, and inside it has a table, and you like nail it down and everything. But it's the boat, and then I was gonna get a piece of paper so it can go like a little dome-ish thing on top of the boat, and then another piece of paper where it has the name. Like it could be their name, so it could be like, for example, my name is Cecile, so it could be like, oh, Cecile, and they color it in or put stickers on it with flowers and everything so that they can make a little remodel of the trajineras that are in real life in Xochimilco. Or people also had the option to do an ajolote. I know the instructions are kind of simple, but it's just like for kids who want to do it, arts and crafts. I'm really hoping these activities in this workshop heals people's inner child. And I hope you found this really, really useful. Again, please subscribe, please like, comment, show it to your friends, everything you can possibly think of, because I want people to know the real history of my community. It's really, really important because we are more than just a tourist attraction in Mexico. We are more than the spicy Latina, for me being the teacher of this topic. We are more than anything that the media produces, because unfortunately, we live in a time that we're not really represented properly. So again, please subscribe, like, comment, and show this to all your friends. I hope more teachers see this so that they can have an activity to do with their students or even family members so that they can teach their kids and keep the culture intact. So thank you. Bye-bye.